And now I'd like to introduce Dave Solverson, our Finance Chair, for the current fiscal position and budget forecast.
Thanks, Chuck. At this time, I'm going to review the Alberta beef producers' financial position as of March 31st, 2010. The financial statements have been audited and found in order by Kingston Ross Pasnek, LLP. These financial statements are included in the annual report. As reflected on the Statement of Operations, marketings for the 09-10 year totaled $4.52 million, as compared to $4.67 million marketings in the year prior. I will now provide a summary of the $10.8 million of expenses for the 9-10 year in terms of the amount spent per $3 service charge. The national checkoff is $1 per head. ABP remits this money to the National Agency for distribution to the Canada Beef Export Federation, the Beef Information Centre, and the Beef Cattle Research Council. 42 cents per head go toward national policy and trade advocacy programs that are critical for an industry that is heavily reliant on market access and trade. This investment is a reflection of the leading role Alberta takes supporting positions that influence policies and standards at all levels of government, provincial, national, and international. The cost of having a democratic organization that represents producers across the province and across sectors means that 21 cents per head are allocated to board and delegate expenses, ABP governance, and provincial initiatives. 45 cents per head goes to council, committee, staff, and project expenses in the priority areas related to ABP's mandate, including marketing, education and promotion, communication with producers, media, government, and the public, the research, animal health and welfare, and environmental stewardship aspects of cattle production, and provincial policy work. 60 cents was allocated to reserve funds for future operating and trade advocacy commitments. Finally, to support the business conducted by ABP, office, legal, and financial administration are allocated 32 cents per head. I refer you to the annual report for further details. For the year ended March 31st, 2010, the excess of revenue over expenses was $2.8 million. These funds have been allocated by a Board of Directors motion to operating reserve funds for the 10-11 and the 11-12 years. Of this amount, the Board had reduced the 9-10 budgeted expenses by $1 million in order to have funds available for the 10-11 operating year, and there was another $800,000 in reduced expenditures from last year that also were put into operating funds for the 10-11 fiscal year. The final $1 million was the net result of increased marketings over the amounts budgeted, and this money was allocated to the operating reserve fund for the 11-12 year. I would like to now discuss the impact of a refundable checkoff. At the time this video is being prepared, refunds from the first eligible period, April 1st to June 30th, 2010, were being processed. ABP received fewer than 400 refund requests from producers who requested a total of just over $1 million of refunds. This represented approximately 37% of the service charge revenue collected during this period. Of the refund requests, 60 requests, approximately 15% of the requests, were from producers who requested refunds for service charges collected on more than 1,000 head, and these requests represented about 80% of the total refunds. The loss of these funds will have great impact on our industry. Fewer producer dollars will mean fewer dollars available for leveraging national marketing and research funds, less money for vital trade advocacy, legal support on WTO challenges, and national policy work done by the CCA. Your checkoff dollars funded CCA's input into U.S. Rule 2 negotiations, allowing importation of OTM beef and cattle. Who would imagine 2 years ago we'd have 60-cent cows with a near-par dollar? Loss of funds will also reduce our ability to effectively represent the interests of cattle producers with provincial and federal governments, and reductions in the important provincial programs and projects that address the marketing, communication, promotion, regulatory policy, and cattle production needs of the industry. The last item I'd like to discuss is the proposed budget for the 11-12 year. As you may recall, in 2009, the Board of Directors recommended a change in the budgeting process for future years. The net revenue remaining from the amounts collected in 1 year, less refunds and payments to the national agency, are to be used for expenses in the following year. This process of collecting net revenue 1 year to use for the following year's expenditures will enable ABP to budget effectively and ensure there are funds available for the core operations. The Board of Directors has prepared a draft budget for next year based upon an operating fund of $5 million. Based on the current information, the directors are optimistic that this level of funding will be available for next year. However, the Board of Directors will implement the final budget when the net revenue for this year is known. From this annual budget, Alberta beef producers must pay its share of the CCA assessments, continue to support trade advocacy programs, incur the costs associated with running a democratic organization, and reach the objectives established by producers and delegates for our organization and the industry. It is important to note that historical budget expenses were not considered excessive or unreasonable. Budget cuts as a result of checkoff refund represent a direct reduction in the programs and services that would benefit all producers. The industry will suffer as a whole as the unified voice speaking for all cattle producers is weakened. It is disheartening to see this loss of support come at a time when all cattle and beef producers should be working together to make the industry stronger. We need your continued support to make your organization stronger and your voice stronger. The annual report includes specific budget details. This concludes my financial report. Your Zone Director will be happy to answer any questions you may have. Chuck?
Thanks for the financial insight, Dave.